I was always a really big fan of the first Blair Witch, but I never really got to experience the hype that it conjured when it first came out. I was only maybe 4 when it first came out, and I didn't understand. Like my parents saw it, and they said it was really scary, and I recently just saw it for the first time a couple weeks ago, and I really liked it. I thought it was a pretty good movie with some pretty tense moments. I know a lot of people will make the argument that nothing happens throughout the movie, but I think that's a benefit towards the movie because it really ramps up the tension tenfold, and the lore behind it was really rich. And yeah, overall, I just really liked it, and I can see why it was such a phenomenon back in the '90s. But now that we have a sequel to it, a reboot sequel in a sense, I was kind of apprehensive about it because I thought the first one ended in a really good place where we didn't know who the witch was, which kind of added to the mystery of the movie, and we think that these 3 characters are dead, and I was pretty content with that. But now that we have a sequel to it, I didn't really know how to feel about it going in. I just kind of brushed it off, and I didn't know if I wanted to see it yet. But I ended up biting, and I took a couple friends, and we went to go see the movie. Um, Overall, I have to say I was a little disappointed with it. I liked that it kind of went back to the found footage standpoint because that's what made the first movie so iconic. So I see what they were trying to pull off with this whole found footage aesthetic. And I really like the director behind it. Adam Wingard is proving to be one of my favorite modern directors nowadays. He directed The Guest and You're Next, 2 of my favorite movies of their respective years, 2014 and 2011. Um, and I'm a really big fan of Simon Barrett's work. He always works hand in hand with Adam Wingard as his writer, and I think he's created some really great screenplays out of this partnership. And when I went into this movie, I was just a little apprehensive because found footage nowadays can be made for $1 million, a cheap abandoned warehouse, and a set of decently talented actors, and a script that really doesn't break new grounds with anything actually. So when going into this movie, I was surprised to see that the main character of the group that we're going to be following is actually the sister of Heather from I'm sorry, the brother of Heather from the original movie. And I was like, okay, I dig it. This is it's a pretty you have a good solid foundation for this movie that we're going to be watching, I guess. So they go into the woods, and I was really disappointed because it basically plays out as a shot-for-shot remake of the original. They go out into the woods, they get lost for a couple hours, and then some weird shit starts happening. And I was like, yeah, I've seen this before, but they're not doing anything to innovate it. I mean, watching this movie, it was just a big bundle of disappointment because the only scares that we got were these extremely poorly placed jump scares, and it's the same jump scare throughout the entire movie. It's people running up to the camera and screaming "boo" or "hey, what are you doing over here?" And sure, it was scary the first time, but after 4 times, you just come to expect it. And I was like, this isn't what the original movie was all about. The original movie was all about tension and mystery and not knowing if the witch was really real or not. And this movie just it throws in these random jump scares that have no effectiveness whatsoever. See, that's what I think the problem with modern horror movies is that they rely too much on jump scares. Whereas in movies like Sinister, one of my favorite horror movies, really makes you earn the jump scare because there is a set amount of tension throughout the movie, and it just baffles me that people think, like directors and studios think that they can rely on jump scares when, in all honesty, they just don't work anymore because you come to expect them. Anyway, getting back to the movie, I thought the acting was okay. I mean, they pretty much sold the fact that they were lost in the woods, kind of like how the first cast did it, and it was okay. I guess it was fine. And now, the direction. I mean, you don't really have direction in a found footage movie. I think it's just the actors holding the camera and running around and screaming at shit, which is kind of disappointing because Adam Wingard is a very, very good director. I think I think he's one of the best working directors nowadays, and it's really disappointing to see that we're getting him just doing found footage. it really wastes his talents. And Simon Barrett's writing in this movie is just okay. I mean, you could kind of tell that the dialogue was kind of improvised, so it really didn't really mean Simon Barrett didn't really even need to be on set. So it was kind of disappointing in a sense. And the big question everybody's been asking about this movie is, do you actually see the witch? And you do actually see the witch. It's like okay, I guess. I mean, like everything about this movie is just like whatever. I mean, it doesn't really have any of those standout moments that the first movie did. And I don't know. I just have to say I was really, really disappointed with this movie. I'd say I give it about like a 4 or 5 out of 10. Thanks for watching, guys.